Have you ever met someone who could twist your words, play with your emotions, and make you question your own reality, while smiling the entire time? Someone who made you feel guilty for things you never did? Someone who drained your confidence? Without ever raising their voice? What if I told you that centuries ago Niccolò Machiavelli already understood people like this? And more importantly, he understood how to defeat them. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and make sure you watch until the end, because the final tactic may completely change the way you deal with manipulative people in your relationships, friendships, and everyday life. Most people think manipulation is obvious. They imagine loud arguments, threats, or aggressive behavior. But real manipulators are rarely loud. They are subtle, calculated, patient. They study your emotions like a hunter studies prey. They learn your fears, your insecurities, your desires, and then quietly use them against you. Machiavelli believed that power does not belong to the strongest person in the room. It belongs to the person who understands human nature better than everyone else. And if you don't learn how manipulation works, you become easy to control. Imagine a young man named Daniel. Daniel was kind, loyal, and trusting. Everyone described him as a good person. But there was one problem. People constantly used him. His friends borrowed money and never returned it. His girlfriend blamed him for everything wrong in the relationship. His co-workers took credit for his ideas, and every time something happened, Daniel told himself the same lie. If I'm more patient, people will eventually appreciate me. But they never did, because manipulators don't respect kindness without boundaries. They exploit it. One day Daniel met an older businessman who told him something that changed his life forever. He said, "The world is not divided between good people and bad people. It is divided between people who understand power and people who don't." That was the beginning of Daniel's transformation, and today, you're going to learn the same 7 tactics that helped him stop being controlled. The first tactic is this: never reveal your emotional weak points too early. Manipulators survive by collecting information. The moment you reveal your deepest fears, insecurities, loneliness, or emotional wounds, they store that information like ammunition. At first, they may seem understanding. They listen carefully. They comfort you. They make you feel safe. But later, during conflict, they weaponize everything you told them. Machiavelli understood that information is power. The less a manipulator knows about your emotional triggers, the harder it becomes for them to control you. This doesn't mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means learning the difference between trust and emotional exposure. Daniel learned this lesson the hard way. Every time he argued with his girlfriend, she somehow knew exactly what to say to destroy him. If he feared abandonment, she threatened to leave. If he feared failure, she mocked his ambitions. If he feared being alone, she withdrew affection. And then Daniel realized something terrifying. He had personally given her every weapon she used against him. From that day forward, he stopped oversharing his vulnerabilities with people who had not earned his trust, and suddenly, manipulators lost their advantage. The second tactic is even more powerful. Never react immediately. Manipulators feed on emotional reactions. When they provoke you, they want instant anger, panic, defensiveness, or desperation. Why? Because emotional people become predictable. The moment emotions control your behavior, your decisions stop being strategic. Machiavelli believed that calmness creates power. The person who controls their emotions controls the situation. Think about how manipulators operate. They insult you subtly, they create confusion, they accuse you unfairly, and then they carefully watch your reaction. If you explode emotionally, they win. Because now the attention shifts away from their manipulation and onto your reaction. Daniel once had a coworker who constantly embarrassed him during meetings. Small comments, passive-aggressive jokes, subtle disrespect. At first, Daniel reacted emotionally every time. He argued, defended himself, raised his voice, and somehow, he always looked like the problem. Then he changed his strategy. The next time the co-worker tried to provoke him, Daniel simply smiled and stayed calm. No anger, no emotional reaction, no defense. And something strange happened. The manipulator became uncomfortable. Because manipulators expect emotional chaos, calmness destroys their rhythm. Silence can be more intimidating than rage. The third tactic is this: learn the power of strategic distance. One of Machiavelli's most dangerous observations was simple. Not every battle deserves your presence. Manipulators want constant access to your mind and emotions. The more access they have, the easier you are to influence. This is why strategic distance is so powerful. Sometimes the smartest move is not confrontation. It is withdrawal. Daniel had a friend who constantly drained his energy. Every conversation became criticism. Every success became competition. Every weakness became gossip. But Daniel kept tolerating it because he feared conflict. Eventually, he realized something important. Distance is not cruelty. Distance is self-protection. He stopped answering every call immediately. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped giving unlimited access to his time and emotions. And slowly, the manipulator lost control over him. Machiavelli understood that presence is valuable. The less available you become to toxic people, the weaker their influence becomes. The fourth tactic may be the most difficult. Stop seeking validation. Manipulators can only control people who desperately need approval. The need to be liked makes people easy to manipulate. Because once someone controls your self-worth, they control your behavior. Think about it. Why do people tolerate disrespect? Why do they stay in toxic relationships? Why do they constantly explain themselves? Because deep down, they fear rejection. Manipulators sense this immediately. They know exactly who craves validation, and they use approval like a reward system. One moment they praise you, the next moment they withdraw affection. This creates emotional addiction. Daniel experienced this with his girlfriend. Some days she treated him like he was special. Other days she became distant and cold, and Daniel constantly chased the return of her affection. Until one day he understood the trap. He wasn't fighting for love anymore. He was fighting for approval. That realization changed everything. The moment you stop needing constant validation, manipulators lose their strongest weapon, because confidence terrifies controlling people. A person who can walk away emotionally becomes impossible to dominate. The fifth tactic is pure Machiavelli. Make people reveal themselves. Most manipulators destroy themselves if you simply give them enough time. But emotional people expose manipulators too early. They confront too quickly, accuse too quickly, react too quickly. Machiavelli believed patience exposes character. Daniel learned to stop interrupting manipulators. Instead, he started observing. He noticed patterns. People who constantly lied eventually contradicted themselves. People who gossiped eventually gossiped about everyone. People who manipulated others eventually became careless. The more calm and observant Daniel became, the more clearly he saw human nature. Manipulators often create their own downfall. You simply need enough discipline to watch quietly. This is why intelligent people rarely reveal all their knowledge immediately. Observation creates advantage, and sometimes silence makes people expose secrets they never intended to reveal. The sixth tactic is one that powerful people understand deeply. Control your image. Machiavelli famously believed, perception matters more than reality. Manipulators carefully craft images. They pretend to be victims. They pretend to be innocent. They pretend to care. Meanwhile, their real intentions remain hidden. If you ignore perception completely, you become vulnerable. Daniel made this mistake for years. He assumed people would automatically see the truth. But the world doesn't work that way. People judge based on appearance, confidence, emotional control, and social perception. Manipulators understand this better than most good-hearted people. That's why they spread rumors quietly. That's why they smile publicly while attacking privately. So Daniel changed his approach. He stopped oversharing emotional drama publicly. He became calmer, more composed, more disciplined, and eventually, something surprising happened. People began respecting him differently, not because he became fake, but because he learned that protecting your reputation is part of protecting yourself. Machiavelli understood that weak appearances invite attack. Composed image discourages manipulation before it even begins. And finally, the seventh tactic: become willing to walk away. This is the ultimate freedom. Manipulators survive through dependency. If they know you cannot leave, they control you. This applies to relationships, friendships, jobs, even family dynamics. The greatest source of power is emotional independence. Daniel feared losing people his entire life, so he tolerated disrespect endlessly. But one day, after another exhausting argument, he looked at himself in the mirror and asked, "How much of myself am I sacrificing just to keep toxic people comfortable?" That question changed him forever. For the first time, he became willing to lose people who brought chaos into his life. And strangely, that was the moment. People stopped controlling him because manipulators sense desperation. When they realize you are emotionally prepared to walk away, their power disappears. Machiavelli believed fear is one of the strongest forces in human behavior. But there is something manipulators fear deeply: a person who no longer fears losing them. That person becomes untouchable. Now listen carefully. None of these tactics are about becoming cruel. Machiavelli is often misunderstood. People think his philosophy is about evil manipulation. But at its core, his philosophy is about understanding reality instead of blindly trusting appearances. The world contains kind people, but it also contains users, manipulators, and emotional predators. And if you remain naive, life becomes painful. Daniel finally understood this. He didn't become heartless. He became aware. He still cared about people, still respected others, still valued loyalty. But he stopped allowing toxic people unlimited access to his emotions, and that changed his entire life. His relationships improved, his confidence returned. His mind became calmer. Because the moment you understand manipulation, you stop being controlled by it. So remember these 7 tactics. Protect your vulnerabilities. Control your emotions. Use strategic distance. Stop seeking validation. Observe patiently. Protect your image. And always be willing to walk away. Master these principles, and manipulators will no longer see you as prey. They will see you as someone dangerous to underestimate. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.